So I served in Columbus, Ohio, and I served English speaking, which I was really grateful for. I love languages, so it's not because I didn't want to learn the language, but I was just grateful that it was more just like teaching doctrines that I could learn more effectively in my own language. But I think some of the biggest expectations I had was that Ohio was really flat and had like nothing in it. Like just corn everywhere, lots and lots of corn. And I wanted to serve in a ghetto. And so that was always that I would tease my mom with. I'd be like, I'm going to go to the ghetto. And then I got called to Columbus. I was like, oh, there's no ghetto. But there actually is a ghetto. And so I wanted to have a lot of different opportunities to teach different types of people. And so I kind of imagined it to be just a bunch of hicks and, you know, people who I don't know, like lots of different religions and beliefs, because it's at the end of the Bible Belt. So going into Columbus, I didn't really know what to expect, because I knew some things about Ohio and Columbus. I knew that they were huge football fans, and that was its own religion in and of itself. But and I don't know. It reminded me of like Texan pride. There's also like major Ohio pride, because my friend would always talk about, you know, how wonderful it is. And it is, obviously, but I'm exceedingly biased. So, but those are like the main expectations I had prior to going. So when I first landed in Ohio, it was in August, and so it was really hot and super humid. And that was really like a huge difference, because I had never really experienced humidity, and so I just felt like I was like a deer in the headlights that first whole like day and a half before you're there, and you get, you know, picked up by the APs, and then you go to the mission home, and I don't know, it's just really exciting to be there, but also just, what have I done, you know, like, and but mostly just really excited to learn how to be a better missionary. And then when I got my trainer, we were doubled into an area, or we were both put in an area that we had never been before. And so my trainer had only been out for 3 months. So we were both fairly new, and we were put into downtown Columbus where the ghetto was. And I was so excited, because it was like an answer to a prayer that I never said, but it was really cool that I got to go there very first. And so the first beginning part of my mission was really just learning the area, and we were the first sister missionaries in that ward, and so we didn't have any area book, any people to teach, and so we just started from the ground zero, and we learned how to teach in that area, because it was downtown, so it was a lot of street contacting and a lot of talking to people outside and wherever they are. And so that was a huge learning curve, like learning how to talk to people when it's not planned, you just talk to them. And I served in the ghetto. The area is called Marble Cliff, but I served there for 6 months, and it was really a neat experience, because the people there are so humble. There's a lot of hard things living in the ghetto. There's a lot of people who are in really poor situations. It's pretty it's pretty dirty in the real heart of the ghetto, and but the people there are awesome, and I think some of the biggest trials that we had for teaching people were, a lot of people would be desirous to learn about the gospel, but they don't have the means to get to where the church building is, or they economically it's just a really big struggle for them. But there's also a lot of really devoted saints who help the people who are converts out of the ghetto. Within the same area in Marble Cliff, it was a really interesting contrast because there's an area called Upper Arlington, and it's the ritziest area in the mission, but they're in the same ward. So there is such an interesting contrast there, because I actually served in both sections of Marble Cliff. And so serving in the ghetto, you can talk to people really easily. People who are outside, generally, like, they're willing to talk to you. They may not always be interested in learning, but they'll listen to your message, or share their own message, which is really neat to talk to people about how they view Jesus Christ. And but in Upper Arlington, people are comfortable, and they don't see a need to change, and a lot of times it was really difficult to teach there. So it's definitely a stark contrast between the areas within Marble Cliff. Something that I really enjoyed about this area is it taught me how to teach in a lot of ways. It taught me how to teach to people and to their circumstances, instead of just sharing that Jesus Christ is our Savior. It was a tailored message of Jesus Christ. And there were a lot of Black people in the ghetto, and that was the best. I really loved learning about that culture and how they have Christ in their lives. There's a lot of churches in Ohio. I feel like it's every street corner kind of thing. And so there's a lot of different teachings that go around about the Bible and about who Mormons are. And some of my favorite misconceptions there were that Mormons have horns. That was a really big one. And that Mormons don't allow a lot of different types of people into their congregations, which was really interesting. And I think, so in stark contrast to serving in Marble Cliff and in the ghetto, I served 9 months of my mission in an area called Sidney, Ohio, which is in the middle of nowhere. And it's very rural, and literally it is corn everywhere. So it fulfilled the expectation that I had of Ohio. But it is a very small town feeling, kind of like downtown Provo. It's old, rustic, antique-y feeling, but very tight-knit community as well. And it really is a place that I came to love. People there are definitely more set in their religion. A lot of the people who live there, especially, I served in a town called Piqua for most of my time there, and a lot of people there have gone to the same church for years, and their family has been in this town for years, and they all say that they want to leave, but they still live there. It's kind of a funny conundrum. But there's also a lot of variance in socioeconomic status. There's a poor section of town, but there's also a very wealthy section of town, and beautiful big country homes, and lots of land space, and farming is huge, and it's just incredible to see how vastly different Ohio was, and I didn't expect it to be necessarily, because I always just imagined it all flat, but it's actually very green and beautiful there. And I have never seen so many trees condensed into one area in my whole life. And it was amazing. And I loved that I got to serve away from the city and the noise and the bustle, and that it was slow, and people just appreciated the beauty in the town that they lived in, and it was very much more of a real community feeling instead of a spread out. People just kind of go about their own thing. And I served in a second ghetto-ish area called Newark, and it kind of was an in-between of both of my my experiences in Marble Cliff and my experiences in Sydney, because it was a town, so it was more like of a city than Sydney was, but it was definitely still more spread out, but it also had like a concentrated ghetto, and there were a lot of interesting people, but a lot of really, really good people too. And I think that was the biggest thing that I learned, was that there are truly good people everywhere, no matter where you go. You can always find them, and that the differences in people is what makes the world truly a great place.